Transmitter device activated. Coordinates set for Earth 2.
Hey everyone, welcome to the Earth 2 podcast, your weekly exploration of the DC Comics multiverse and the legacy of their Golden Age characters through the Silver and Bronze Ages of comics. I'm Peter Watson.
And I'm David Steele. Welcome back. Thank you for joining us on this, as we record the 6th anniversary of when Peter and I first recorded anything for the Earth 2 podcast. Yes,
Wow.
As we record today on the 4th of November 2025. It's 6 years since Peter and I recorded whatever it was we did first, be it our introductory episode or whichever our first episode was. I can't remember, but my Snapchat flashback today had Peter and I sat in my living room chatting and saying that we were just about to start recording. So isn't that nice, Peter?
Oh my goodness.
We've been doing this for 6 years.
Yes, of course, on a more or less weekly basis. Crikey jings.
Yes, well done us. Because we didn't obviously release any episodes, I think it was till May 2020. You know, and I think we started planning a month or so before that. But yes, 6 years ago today.
Gasp.
Exciting. Listeners, what were you doing 6 years ago today on the 4th of November 2019? Send a message to @FinishZine on Twitter and he'll send it to the Earth2 podcast at gmail.com and we'll deal with it from there. So, this is the Earth 2 podcast. We do explore the pre-crisis DC Comics multiverse and we do examine the legacy of the Golden Age characters, and it's Golden Age legacy that we're talking about today. Isn't that right, Peter?
It most certainly is, and we should probably just jump straight into the story and explain our reasoning thereafter.
Do you think so?
Oh, I think so.
Okay.
Very much legacy we're focusing on in this issue, and I think we'll be pleasantly surprised.
Interesting. He's a trickster, isn't he, listeners? Well, he's going to tell us about the cover before we jump into the story.
Yes, this story is from Batman Family issue 6, published on the 1st of April 1976. We're in the bicentennial period, so of course we've got the red, white and blue DC Comics salutes the bicentennial at the top. DC Batman Family Giant, number 6, because of course there's tons of stories in this issue. There's a nice little picture of Robin and Batgirl at the top. 2 new tales starring Batgirl and Robin. And of course the classic Batman Family logo, approved by the Comics Code Authority. Down the left-hand side we have the roll call for this issue. And at the top we have Batgirl,
Robin,
and finally Alfred, with an amazing comb-over. Yes, it's probably the best comb-over I've seen on Alfred in the drawing thus far in the podcast. It's phenomenal.
Someone should do a dedicated podcast to Alfred comb-overs. I'd listen to it.
Oh, yes. And there are 3 images on this cover. The top image is Robin falls for the Joker's daughter. And we see Robin being pushed off of a gantry or a bridge above a busy motorway with cars rushing about by what looks like a female version of the Joker. But she's pushing him by ejecting fake hands. My goodness, he is flying way back. Crikey jings.
It reminds me of going to Prestwick Airport or stopping off at a motorway services and having to cross over the bridge to get to the side that's got the little chef.
Of course, remember the little chef?
That's what that reminds me of, that structure.
Well, from little chef to little chief, because the next picture is Batgirl celebrates the bicentennial in Valley of the Copper Moon. And we have Batgirl. She was on horseback, but her horse has been rammed, funnily enough, by a bison. See what they did there? Very clever. Being ridden by a Native American chief, I would say, just judging by the length of his headdress. My goodness. And take a drink, folks, because of course there is a copper moon hanging in the sky between them. And at the very bottom, there's a small band that says, Villain of the issue, the Mad Hatter. And we have the classic ginger-tashed Mad Hatter in 5 poses. One in his classic top hat. Second one is in a chef's outfit. Third one is kind of like a Peter Pan style. Fourth one is like a fire chief's helmet he has. And then he has a classic doiby on his 5th and final picture. My goodness. So which one of these stories do you think we'll be talking about today, David?
Is it the Mad Hatter story, Peter?
It's not the Mad Hatter story.
Oh, I wonder which one it is then. We shall keep the listeners in suspense for a moment longer now. As Peter said there in his description, this is one of the DC comics that featured the DC salutes the bicentennial flash along the top. A few weeks ago on our socials, I posted the full-page advertisement that ran through the DC comics at this period, highlighting all of these titles that had this bicentennial flash and the numbers that corresponded, etc. This one is actually number 5. We got a few comments on it when I posted it on Facebook, and I'll just bring you them very quickly. Friend of the show, Brian Schufo, commented, that red, white and blue salutes brings up so much nostalgia. Everything was red, white and blue in 1976. John Steeb, I hope I pronounced that properly, or Steib, sorry John, he says, I actually loved this ad, even if I was 8 and didn't understand parts of it.
All right.
Showing your age there, John. And of course, Brian being old enough to remember the bicentennial. And Kevin Zemanek, I hope I pronounced that properly, Zemanek, he said, I really wanted that belt buckle, but I was unwilling to cut up my comics and I didn't have enough money for duplicate issues. Because what you had to do, listeners, was you had to assemble a number of these flashes from the, basically cut off the title and the flash from the top of the cover of your comic and send them off, and you got a nice belt buckle which had the Superman logo and such like. So I don't know if anyone ever did. I don't think I've seen a photograph of one. No. Maybe I'll have a look, and if I can find that, I'll post it in the socials this week. But yes, thank you to Brian and the others there for commenting there. That's very interesting, because it's always nice to get a bit of nostalgia-specific commentary on the stuff that we're talking about. I think we've kept everyone in suspense long enough, haven't we?
Yes, we have. So let's jump to the Robin story in this issue.
We begin, our opening splash image is a sort of ersatz newspaper front page image. We are told that the reporter is
Bob Rozakis.
The graphics are by
Irv Novick and Frank McLaughlin.
And this newspaper is the Hudson Herald. Its editor is
Julius Schwartz.
The headline reads, Robin, police stumped. Who stole Christine Ariadne's mystery novel? And we see an image of Robin stroking his chin and a blonde chap who looks very much like Barry Allen.
Yes, classic 60s crew cuts.
I really hope it is him in the foreground, scratching under his nose, looking thoughtful. And there's an older man with a thinning, receding, swept-back hairline and a moustache with a cigar in his gob, and he's looking to his right as bursting through a large sheet of paper is, well, as Pete said in the cover, a very feminine-looking version of the Joker. And this new arrival is yelling,
Who stole it? Who else but little old me?
And we get a bit of text here which reads,
Recognise the laughing lady taking credit for a crime perplexing Robin? You should, 'cause she's the spitting image of her daddy. She's the Joker's daughter.
Gosh. Now, top of page 2, we get what must presumably be an authentic story from the actual Hudson Herald. A headline reads, Hudson alumnus Christine Ariadne dead at 92. There's a photograph of a slightly craggy lady. This is obviously a riff on Agatha Christie. I hope we don't have to point that out. Bit of text here can be seen that reads, Christine Ariadne, the mystery novelist who brought thrills to millions around the world with her famed detective Ulysses Pilate, died yesterday in England of natural causes. Though her myriad fans will mourn her passing, Mrs. Ariadne's death will turn all eyes to her alma mater.
Hudson University. Where?
We see a very smartly dressed man in a brown suit with a yellow and black striped shirt, surrounded by a crowd of onlookers and obviously reporters, because we can see a large TV camera that reads GBS TV, and there are people taking photographs, making notes. There's one very familiar looking dark-haired young man with a pen and a notepad standing at the front of this little crowd. And this chap in the brown suit is holding up a large notepad, it looks like, and he is saying,
As executor of Mrs. Ariadne's will, I shall read the paragraph relating to the opening of this sealed room.
Yeah, standing beside this large wooden door, if I hadn't mentioned that already. He continues, reading from the pad he has in his hand.
On the 13th day following my death, the sealed room shall be opened, and there for all the world to see will be the greatest mystery of my career. I am sure it will intrigue my readers everywhere as a puzzle worthy of being the last case of Ulysses Pilate.
A couple of men step forward, one is an axe, one is a crowbar.
Gentlemen, break open the seals so we may have Mrs. Ariadne's legacy. The novel written 30 years ago and locked in this room. The mystery which concludes with the death of Ulysses Pilate.
And we see the man with the crowbar getting to work and his mate getting to work as well. As the dark-haired fellow, we notice, leans forward and the red-haired girl by his side raises her camera.
As soon as the room is opened, the manuscript will be rushed to Metropolis, where Galaxy Books, Mrs. Ariadne's publisher, will print it for immediate distribution.
There's the quickest slow dissolve in podcast history, as a caption reads.
But as the door is opened...
And we see a red sort of pillar with what looks like a golden plate sitting on top of it, but there's nothing else. A voice says,
The room's empty.
The manuscript, gone.
Stolen.
And in the first panel, on page 3, swooping in through an open window and a rope, is a willowy, thin figure wearing a purple striped suit, an orange waistcoat, a loud green tie, She has bright white skin and dark green hair which is swept back from her face, and as she swings in on this rope, she cries,
"Yes, you buffoons! Stolen by me, the Joker's daughter!"
Everyone looks aghast, and we see that the dark-haired fellow who's been watching events has turned to the red-haired girl at his side, and he says, "I've got to get to a phone, Laurie. This is a job for Chief MacDonald."
"But Dick, it'll take more than Hudson's security chief to handle this."
And at that, the dark-haired fellow, leaning forward, runs off thinking to himself, "Right, sweetheart, that's why I have to get away as Dick Grayson, so I can come back as..." And then a very familiar figure in green trunks and a red tunic and a yellow cape leaps into view as Dick's thoughts are concluded by a very swinging-looking blonde dude with a thick moustache and a thick fringe who cries,
"Robin, the Teen Titan will stop that mad woman."
As Robin arrives, the Joker's daughter, we see that she's got a pipe in her left hand, but she's still cackling away merrily to herself as she says,
"My daddy always told me smoking was bad for my health. But in this case, it's much worse for yours."
And we see that in her left hand, she's a little tub that is labelled Bubbles. She dips the pipe into it and blows some bubbles in the direction of Robin, laughing while she does so. The bubbles then in Robin's face, releasing a cloud of pink gas. She laughs throughout. Robin looks a bit pained as the gas sweeps around him. First panel of page 4, we see Robin completely surrounded in this pink gas as the Joker's daughter makes for the door, saying,
"And now that I've made my debut, it's time for my exit."
A man with thinning white hair and glasses points out the bleeding obvious when he yells,
"She's getting away."
"Somebody stop her," says someone else. We see a close-up of Robin in the thick of the smoke, putting his hand up to his nostrils as he thinks, "I thought her act was a publicity stunt, but she sure has some real Joker gimmicks. Smoke cling to me, like Laurie in a drive-in movie. This calls for a gimmick of my own."
With aim worthy of his mentor, the Batman, Robin lets fly the Batarang.
And this is great because we see the Batarang flying out from the cloud of smoke. Hopefully there'll be room for this on the socials, but we see that the Joker's daughter has reached into her pocket and has pulled out a powder puff. The captioning continues,
As the Joker's daughter makes her own pitch, and Batarang meets Powder Puff in a flurry of whites.
Yes, she hurls her powder puff, which collides with the flying Batarang, and there's a massive sound effect, and white powder flies everywhere.
And when the girl-mate blizzard has stopped...
Yes, everything clears, and we see that Robin is standing there with Laurie, that's the girl with the red hair, and a new arrival, man with slick back dark hair, white temples, cigar in his mouth, who yells,
"Robin, what the blazes is going on here? Some crazy broad in a fright wig just took off like a... pardon expression, bat."
"That crazy broad swiped Christine Ariadne's manuscript, Chief."
"What? Stolen from this sealed room? That makes it a locked room mystery only Ulysses Pilate could solve."
Robin strokes his chin, he thinks. Or Robin, I hope. There's a slow dissolve.
Next evening, in Chief MacDonald's office...
Yes, we see the headline of the Hudson Herald, which reads, "Joker's daughter to return stolen Ariadne manuscript. Sets rendezvous with Robin for midnight." I wonder if that means midnight is going to turn up. That would be amazing.
Wow.
I think I'm going to face disappointment in this story. Someone is reading from the newspaper, and we see who it is in the next panel. It's a chap with a blonde crew cut and the check blazer who we saw in the splash image. And he is saying, listen to this. "In a bizarre turn of events, the self-confessed thief calling herself the Joker's daughter has offered to return the Christine Ariadne manuscript she allegedly stole earlier today. Demanding to be met by Robin alone at a secret location, she gave no reason for her actions. New Carthage police, Hudson University officials, and the Teen Wonder himself are puzzled." Now, obviously, a little minute or two has passed because the chap with the blonde crew cut is sat on a desk. Robin is stood. The chief is sat in a big chair. The chief appears to have dyed his hair on the previous page, which is interesting. The blonde chap is saying, "Robin, you've battled the real Joker. Do you buy her being his daughter?" Robin replies, "I don't buy or sell her short, Lieutenant Tatum. She's certainly acting as crazy as he does. The only way to find out is to capture her."
"Which means you're going to meet her, lad?"
"It's a rendezvous I can't resist, Chief. I'll tell you, though, I wouldn't mind having Ulysses Pilate here. His little grey cells would get a workout figuring this mystery."
And so, at the stroke of midnight...
Take a drink, listeners, for there is a full moon in this panel. We see Robin in silhouette in front of it as he walks across the roof of a very interesting, brightly lit structure. He thinks to himself, I can see why the clown princess of crime chose the top of this Unispan for this meeting. There's virtually no way for the police to stop her getaway from here, and there is an asterisk at Unispan, which takes us to another caption that reads,
The Hudson University Unispan, an enclosed pedestrian bridge spanning Interstate 24, linking Hudson University's north and south campuses. Editor.
So it's called a Unispan. You live and you learn.
Mm-hmm.
It must be said that the Hudson University Unispan would be a great name for a band, perhaps, that might have been active in the UK in the mid-90s supporting B-list Britpop acts. Slight shift of perspective in the next panels, we see Robin walking across the structure. We can see the cars whizzing by underneath. Robin is thinking, but what might foil the police won't stop.
Suddenly, a thought-breaking burst of light.
And in this flash of light, we see a familiar figure. As Robin says, Ms. Joker, I presume?
Yes, Robin. At last we come face to face. The Batman's son and the Joker's daughter.
Take another drink, listeners, because the full moon is back in the next panel as Robin replies, but I see you've come empty-handed. No manuscript.
On the contrary, dear Robin, I brought exactly what I stole. Nothing.
Robin leaps forward the next panel, grabbing at her wrists, saying, That remains to be seen. I'm taking you down to police headquarters. Now, you've got some questions to answer.
I don't think Daddy would want us holding hands, but I don't mind. In fact, you can even take mine.
And she laughs. As suddenly, her hands detach from her wrists. Robin looks aghast, and then, very helpfully, he thinks in the next panel, What? Phony hands with tiny rockets in them, forcing me backward, and indeed jets of flame are springing from the wrist part of the hands, if you like, and throwing him backwards, as he says. The Joker's daughter follows him, saying,
And I doubt he'd approve of my getting close enough to kiss you, but with my special lipstick,
which she reveals in an inset panel,
I can do it from a distance.
And then she seems to press something on the lipstick. Gosh, this is really, really weird. She laughs again, as we see little lips flying from this lipstick towards Robin. Robin looks appalled as he remarks, Now I'm being belted by some kind of lipstick bullets. Lipstick Bullets, that's a band name if ever I heard one as well.
That certainly is. It's phenomenal.
Yeah.
It's an album title.
Yes.
Maybe
the unreleased second Montrose Avenue album.
the live album.
Who can say?
You can say.
Robin is still fighting off the jet-propelled hands in the next panel as the lipstick marks all start to land on his face. He's thinking to himself, I'm not fighting back. I can't bring myself to hit a girl, and she knows it. But even if I can't personally hit her, there's no reason why I can't turn her hands against her. And with that, Robin does an astonishingly good backflip. And as he does so, he releases the hands which go flying back towards the Joker's daughter, colliding with her shoulders basically and knocking her backwards. A full moon looms in the next panel. She tips off the Unispan crying,
Going to fall! Help! Robin, save me!
And the dashing boy wonder rushes forward as we see her hands waving frantically, but then she grabs a hold of the Unispan. Robin pitches over and past her as she says,
Thanks, Robin. I knew you couldn't help falling for that damsel in distress routine.
Gosh, this is terrifying. Robin's falling down towards the motorway. Oh my goodness. But then he starts to somersault and he thinks, After my parents were killed in a fall from a circus trapeze, I developed an acrobatic routine that would have saved them. But I never thought I'd need it myself. And thankfully, he comes out of the somersault and lands on the grass verge beside the motorway.
Still hoping to capture his elusive foe, Robin returns via bat rope to the top of the span. But all he is able to arrest is...
Robin, silhouetted by a full moon, thinks to himself, A talking Joker doll? And he's holding a Barbie G.I. Joe Action Man Cindy-sized figure of the Joker's daughter, which is saying to him,
Something to remember me by, dear Robin. A reminder that while you're trying to find out who I am, I'm going to be tracking down your identity. Ha!
And there's an asterisk and a caption that reads,
As will be revealed in a forthcoming issue of The Batman Family.
There's a slow dissolve and another caption.
And soon...
And we see the outside of the police headquarters building. And from inside we hear the voice of the chief as he says,
So you failed to get the manuscript from her?
Yeah, but that's because she never had it. And cutting inside for the next panel, we see the chief, Lieutenant Tatum, and Robin, as the chief says,
Never had it? Then who stole the blasted thing?
Nobody, Chief. There was absolutely no way anybody could have gotten into that sealed room. No possible way the manuscript could have been removed, which obviously means it was never there in the first place. The way I figure it, Mrs. Ariadne couldn't bear to kill off her favourite creation, Ulysses Pilate. She clearly gave the impression she wrote that last novel, but never did. The greatest mystery mentioned in her will was this, discovering there was no manuscript.
I get it. The Joker's daughter planned to steal the novel.
But when it wasn't there, she took credit for the theft anyway, chips in the lieutenant, as Robin concludes matters, saying, Right. Her plan was foiled by Christine Ariadne herself, who masterminded the theft of something that never existed. And a small caption reads,
End.
The next page is very helpful because it's an illustrated list of Robin's cast of characters, and we're told that Laurie Elton, the girl who's at the start of the story, is Dick's girlfriend at Hudson, and there's a little bit of description about the Chief and Lieutenant Rick Tatum. So we might put that page on the socials this week as well to pad things out.
Yes.
Watch out for that.
Good idea.
So, listeners, this is when Peter tells us why we've just read this story.
Well, you might think legacy, it's the Joker's daughter, so that would be the legacy aspect, and you're only partially right. Because this character, the Joker's daughter, later takes on the name the Harlequin, and of course there's a Golden Age character called the Harlequin who encountered Alan Scott Green Lantern several times. Now, she debuted in All American Comics number 89, that was the 18th of July 1947 that came out. Molly Mayne was a woman who developed a crush on Alan Scott and donned a colourful costume which included Harlequin glasses, a birthday hat and a mandolin, and she started a life of crime to attract his attention. Now, her crimes tended to be harmless and mostly for show, but they clashed on several occasions in the late 1940s. Now, very briefly, she joined the Injustice Society until she turned on them by aiding the JSA. She had a deep-running altruistic streak, which occasionally led her to join forces with her enemy/would-be love interest, Alan Scott. Despite being attracted to the Harlequin, Scott never entered into a relationship with her, and she eventually gave up. That brings us up to this point. There are further developments with the Molly Mayne Harlequin character, but we'll cover them much later on in the podcast when we reach that in the timeline. Probably been about the 80s, I think.
Yes.
So, spoilers in the meantime. Now, Molly Mayne had 16 appearances in the Golden Age, the final one being in The Murdered Clues, which was from Green Lantern issue 38, which came out on the 16th of March 1949. So the name had been dormant since.
I see.
Now, let's get on to the Joker's daughter. She first appears in the Robin story we've just read from Batman Family issue 6. She returns in the Robin story in Batman Family 8, but not as the Joker's daughter, as Catgirl instead, allegedly the Catwoman's daughter, much to the annoyance of Catwoman. In Batman Family 9, she encounters both Robin and Batgirl. She first appears as Scarecrow, allegedly the Scarecrow's daughter, but then as the Riddler's daughter, who doesn't get a fancy name, and then as the Penguin's daughter, who also doesn't get a fancy name, before it's finally revealed that she is in reality Jula Dent, the daughter of Two-Face.
Gasp! So she's not the Joker's daughter. She's Two-Face's daughter. Oh my goodness.
Now, during this story, Jula sees an unmasked Robin, as was foretold in this story we've just covered, and recognises him as Dick Grayson. Now, she uses that as leverage to become a member of the Teen Titans, joining in Titans issue 46, in a story that we'll actually cover in a future episode. In issue 48 of Titans, she finally settles on a new costumed identity, and that is, of course, the Harlequin, the whole reason we're doing this. And she's there until the series ends with issue 53.
There you go, listeners. There was a method to his madness.
She also has a brief cameo in Detective Comics 474. Now, she teams up again with Robin in Batman Family issue 16. She has an out-of-costume cameo at Wally West's graduation in DC Special 11, which is another story we'll cover in a future episode. And then she next appears in Batman Family 19, again out of costume, where she tells Dick Grayson she's leaving Hudson University, but doesn't go into any details. Then she next appears in a 2-part Robin story in Detective Comics 482 and 483, in a new identity as the Card Queen.
Wow.
This time she's using playing card gimmicks to commit crimes while posing as a heroine. It turns out she was working undercover all the time to infiltrate a criminal organisation called Maze.
Wow.
Now, well, UK listeners of a certain age might recognise that story because it was reprinted in one of the Batman pocketbooks that were digest-sized reprints that we got here in the UK in the early 80s.
Interesting.
I vividly remember that story from then. There's also a character in it called Raven. So we might cover that as some sort of legacy aspect in future. We might not. We'll see how it goes. But that brings us on to our final and most confusing appearance, because she's a guest at Donna Troy's wedding in just 4 panels of Tales of the New Teen Titans 50. In it, she's a brief conversation with Dick Grayson, which David and I will perform for you now.
You see Dick looking very smart in a horrible tuxedo with a massive black bow tie and a frilly shirt. And he's talking to a woman, I want to say a slightly older woman than maybe we would have expected, given who we're talking about. You know, and she's not quite as svelte and slim as she was when she was running about the Unispan earlier in this episode, but she has dyed her hair sort of very rich purple. Dick, of course, finds her familiar as he says, "Jula Dent? I barely recognised you."
No reason you should have, Dickie. My Harlequin days were £50 ago, to say the least. Ah, those are good times with the Titans, weren't they, hon?
Yeah, they were fun. By the way, speaking of Harlequin, I realised something a while back. You're too old to be Two-Face's daughter.
It took you this long to figure that out? The Batman would not be happy.
And she reaches up and sort of squeezes his cheeks as Dick says, "So, what's the truth?" But Jula walks away with her drink in her hand, saying,
Maybe, Dickie, just maybe I'll tell you. One of these days, that is. Ta-ta!
"But Jula," says Dick as she goes, and that's all he says, in vain, because she's gone. Gosh.
And that's it. She walks off, drink in hand, and that's her final pre-crisis appearance.
Wow.
Which begs many, many, many questions. Who actually was this person?
Yes.
It's never properly explained. Also, how much background check and research did Dick do, considering, you know, he's supposed to be trained by the world's greatest detective to have this imposter working side by side with him, privy to all the Titans', you know, personal information.
Yeah.
It's bizarre.
Very lax.
I get a feeling that Titans issue 50 was basically Marv Wolfman's way of tidying up as many loose ends as he possibly could, and he felt Harlequin was one of them. It's an oversized issue, and there's tons and tons of cameos from different characters.
Right.
But this, I think, was his way of saying, let's just forget about this character and move on. It's a mystery. Let's just go.
Yeah. Leaving an element of mystery feels quite appropriate, given that story which introduced her was referencing, you know, a pastiche of Agatha Christie.
Yes.
That feels appropriate.
Ah.
As if Marv Wolfman didn't cause enough hassle by writing the crisis in the first place. But like the Murphys, I'm not bitter.
Shake fists. Whoa, Marv Wolfman.
Yes. Curse you, God, for making me this way. That was very interesting, Peter. You've intrigued me. I wonder if I've got any of those stories. I know I've got a couple more issues of Batman Family. I'll have to have a look and see if I can, which ones I've got, so I can do some reading and find out a bit more about what went on. Very, very interesting.
As I said, there will be a couple of them that we will be doing in the future on the podcast,
Yes.
so stay tuned, listeners, for those. In fact, one early next year, I believe.
Interesting.
But going back to this story, what are your thoughts on this one, David?
Yeah, it was fun. I mean, I have to say, I'm not a massive Agatha Christie fan. I've read a couple of the books and found them quite dissatisfying.
Okay.
But like a lot of people, I enjoy watching movie and TV adaptations of her work. I always find them enjoyable.
Yeah,
There's a lot of characters that I wish we could read more stories of on the show, as it were. Solo Robin in the 70s is a sort of era, a sort of a concept almost that's always appealed.
Yes.
And, you know, it's a shame he didn't come up against more characters with legacy names. But, you know, there's a lot of characters we'd love to read more stories from, like the Legion, for example. But, you know, it's not really going to happen, unfortunately. But no, it was interesting. I mean, it was nice to get that little taste of what was going on in Robin's life at this point, because obviously this is when he's off sort of not working with Batman unless it's a special occasion, like the Beatles are involved or something. It's quite interesting for me, who's not a massive Batman or Robin sort of collector or reader, to just get this little glimpse of what he's up to.
Yeah.
Obviously, you walked us through the further developments, but she's a very interesting character. The detachable wrist thing is quite interesting. She's obviously very well prepared and has plenty of resources that she just can drop this doll with a pre-recorded message just when it's required. I was, my heart was in my mouth when Dick fell off the Unispan, but obviously he's skilled. He's going to be all right. Yeah, it was a very, very interesting diversion.
Yeah, his thought bubble was as he's fallen off of that. Like, after my parents were killed from a fall from a circus trapeze, I developed an acrobatic routine that would have saved them, but I never thought I'd need it myself. I mean, that's, as well as giving backstory, it also adds a bit of tragedy to the colourful character that is Robin.
And he's obviously thinking very, very quickly.
Yes. Nice for him to narrate his thoughts that way.
Yeah. It's an interesting point, though, because I remember when was it now? It was about 3 or 4 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
I was through at my mum's for a couple of days and went for a walk to keep my steps up and things. And I figured out a route that would have got me home from primary school quicker than the route I used to traditionally walk. That had never occurred to me. Just how much more quickly it would have got me home. It could have saved me 2 or 3 minutes every day there and back, given it only took me like less than 5-10 minutes to walk to school from where I lived. But I just realised, with no end of frustration for a couple of minutes before I realised how silly it was, that I could have been home in time for a bit more of Blockbusters every single day. So I can empathise with Dick at this point.
You could have, but you wouldn't have been as fit as you are today if you had.
Well, maybe even slightly fitter. I don't know, because there were more stairs involved, I should say. It's so yeah. The lesson there is, of course, is to think about the past and wonder how things might have gone, but not to dwell on them, because that way lies madness. Listeners, have you ever worked out a quicker route to somewhere that you used to go to regularly decades after it would have been useful? Write in and let us know. What were your thoughts then?
Just in general, I love this period of Batman with the Batman family in the 70s because it's a great title. Lots of interesting things happening. They're all really fun stories. And this is very, very representative of them. Mm-hmm. Adding flavour to Robin's solo career is just wonderful. And of course, as I say every time it's mentioned, Hudson University is also the university where the bad guys go to school in the Law and Order TV series. And I have to mention that every single time.
Interesting.
Because it just makes me laugh so much. You can get Hudson University sweatshirts as part of Law and Order merch, I believe. Anyway, this was tons of fun. And I agree with you on like the Joker's Daughter's gadgets. Again, the Bronze Age is just filled with all these ridiculous, wonderful gadgets. It's just so good, especially in stories by Bob Rozakis, because, you know, he loves that sort of stuff. As we'll see in upcoming Secret Society supervillain stories, when he takes over. He is the answer man, after all. And this is wonderful artwork by Irv Novick and Frank McLaughlin. I always think the two of them work very well together.
Yes.
I do like in the actual title of the story, The Joker's Daughter, they use the logo of the Joker from the Joker's own series, but they put the Joker's Daughter's face in the middle of the O. It's very, very cool.
Yes.
And it's just a ridiculous concept. Also, how brave is it to create a fake identity for yourself as the Joker's daughter? He would not be happy at that.
I agree with you. I was surprised when you went through what happened to her subsequently to this. I was surprised that you didn't outline a story where the Joker basically threw her off a cliff because he was put out by it and she had a tragic ending.
Yeah. Well, as I said, there were several kind of post-crisis attempts at doing something with this character.
Right.
There's the Joker's Daughter from the New 52. I hate this period.
Yes, me too.
The Joker cut off his face, and a woman called Jula found his face and basically put it on and wore it.
Oh.
And adopted the identity of
that's
the Joker's
grim.
daughter. It is grim.
That's awful.
Yeah. There's another Jula Dent Harlequin who worked with the Titans post-crisis. I don't have much more information on her, I'll be honest. I've not really read those stories.
Sure. I mean, it's arguable that character Punchline is some sort of riff on a similar sort of idea, you know.
Yeah. There's another version that came from Earth 3. Basically, they haven't really nailed down who this character is post-crisis, and to be honest, I kind of prefer the pre-crisis version all in, because as I said, the Joker's face one is just quite nasty. But obviously the main legacy of Harley Quinn is, of course, Harley Quinn, created by Paul Dini for the Batman animated series, and then became a staple in DC Comics.
Yep.
So that is the long-lasting legacy of Molly Mayne, Harley Quinn, via the Joker's daughter to Paul Dini creating Harley Quinn.
Yeah. And Harley, you know, it doesn't need to be said, has become massive in, you know, in recent years, you know, like Margot Robbie playing in the Suicide Squad films and in their own movie, and she's had many ongoing series and tie-in miniseries and stuff.
Yep.
Be assured, listeners, we're not going to do a modern Harley Quinn cover gallery, because, you know,
it'd take forever.
Quite frankly, where would you stop? But no, it's interesting. It just sort of shows the legacy isn't all just about someone else popping up as Green Lantern or someone else popping up as Starman or someone else popping up as the Flash. It gets quite complicated, and it ripples and bounces around in sort of similar ways you don't really anticipate. But yeah, the modern Harley Quinn definitely has her roots in, especially the Golden Age Harley Quinn.
Yes.
She is very much a female version of the Joker in a lot of ways.
Yes.
And this is a female version of the Joker that we've just been talking about today. So it's not a stretch by any means.
No.
So we'll do the letters, the contemporary correspondence now, jumping to Batman Family Issue 8. which, if you have it to hand, is the one with Catwoman on the cover. Batmail Family is the brilliant letter column title. Great drawing of Dick and Bab standing on an envelope. Very amusing. The first paragraph of the first letter concerns the story we didn't read, Valley of the Copper Moon, but the rest of it goes like this. Dear Bob, as for the Joker's Daughter, I was pleased to see a tribute to the late Agatha Christie, especially one in the form of a mystery. If that bumbling broad was really the offspring of everyone's favourite basket case, she must take after her mother.
Gasp. She
certainly hasn't learned from Daddy. No doubt we'll be seeing more of her in the future, particularly in light of the fact that she committed no real crime this time out. That's an interesting point.
Mm-hmm.
That's from Ed Via, and he's from somewhere spelt Roanoke. I'm guessing VA is Virginia. I hope Ross doesn't shout at me. Editorial response is...
While reader reactions were few and far between on the Batgirl story, the Robin Joker's Daughter tale sparked a barrage of mail, more of which follows. Dear Editor, the Joker's Daughter was delightful. Robin's solo stories seem to be getting better and better, and it's a thrill to see him display the talents that made him the top titan. There are, however, some troublesome flaws in the story. Can't let you get an inflated ego, Mr. Rozagas. I have the sickening feeling that Joker's Daughter is going to be the first in a long line of tritely feminine super ladies whose every move is stereotypical femme. Like using powder puffs and lipstick guns, or falling in love with the oh-so-manly crime-fighting foe. The only way to make a go of the Joker's Daughter is to make her truly insane, a true fanatic. Someone who is truly crazy could lead to really unusual stories. And that's from Denise Oscar from Farmingham Hills, Michigan.
She makes a very good point there, I must agree. Editorial response reads, someone who is truly insane and does end up in truly unusual stories is our girl's dad, who stars coincidentally in a magazine called The Joker. Yes, we know, and issue 6 prompted one of our portmanteau episodes earlier this year.
Yes.
The next letter says, Dear Editor, when I first heard of Robin's impending battle with the progeny of the clown prince of crime, I cringed at the thought that she would be spawned from the same mould that gave us the Super Sons, Luthor's daughter, Supergirl, and Nastalthea. Whoever that is, I don't know. After all, such junior creations usually are colourless carbon copies of the original with nothing going for them but a name. But this latest excursion into the genre was not typical, and so my reaction to The Joker's Daughter cannot be anything but overwhelmingly positive. First of all, there is a complete mystery surrounding the gag-filled girl, whether she is who she claims to be or not. Secondly, while the Laughing Lady is a close copy of the real Joker right down to the outfit, she has her own approach to the harebrained stunts of her namesake. The Daddy always told me remarks and the lipstick bullets gimmicks were great. But enough of the excellent handling of the sporting player. The Agatha Christie takeoff with the mystery of the missing death of Ulysses Pilate was a good storyline in its own right, though it did pale somewhat in the presence of the Joker's daughter. The solution was almost an anticlimax, and I must admit, by the time Robin fell off the Unispan, I had forgotten about the missing novel. And that's from Rich Hango, Clifton, New Jersey. Next letter.
Dear Bob, you're either a genius, or else you should be back on crossword puzzles. Robin is entitled to a colourful costume foe all his own, and the Joker's Daughter is fabulous. I'm hoping she's truly the Joker's offspring, or at least his protege, and that she stays around long enough to encounter Batgirl. Clearly the creation of this clown princess makes you a genius. But said genius is better left to word games if you can't resist giving Robin dialogue like, "Smoke, clinging to me like Laurie at a drive-in movie." Really now? If the Teen Wonder really equates the two experiences, he has some deep psychological problems. And that's from Ron Fitz from Valparaiso, Indiana.
Editorial response to Ron reads, what's wrong with equating the two experiences, especially if Dick and Laurie are having a torrid love affair? Where there's fire, there's smoke. B.R. Okay, final letter. It's from someone who we've not heard from in a while. Dear Editor, most enjoyable was Bob Rozakis' salute to the late Agatha Christie via Robin's encounter with the Joker's daughter. Rozakis is obviously an A1 Christie fan. Considering that one of Miss Christie's lesser-known detectives was a Mrs. Ariadne Oliver, a mystery novelist who appeared in a number of her books, it is not surprising to find her comics counterpart named Christine Ariadne. Oh, this is good stuff. By the way, I'm delighted with the concept of the Joker's daughter. Indeed, why shouldn't he have one? It would certainly be a comics first, and I hope you won't cop out on us by revealing this green-dressed villainess is an imposter. And that's from Man of Letters, Scott Gibson, Evergreen, Colorado. An editorial response to that one is...
Response to our clown princess was so great that it prompted us to follow up this issue's Catgirl caper with a Batgirl Robin team-up next issue. titled Startling Secret of the Devilish Daughters. The Dynamite Duo faces the offspring of the Scarecrow, Riddler, and Penguin, and learn the startling truth about the Joker's daughter in Batman Family 9. On sale in October, so says Bob Rozakis.
Gosh, so he does.
Yeah.
All this mention of Agatha Christie and stuff.
Mm-hmm. Oh, Agatha Christie was obviously in the cultural zeitgeist at the time because she had just passed away on the 12th of January 1976.
Wow, they didn't mess about then, did they?
Yeah, so obviously when that was reported, it's perhaps inspired some reactions in comics, including this story.
Yeah, turnaround must have been really quick because this story was obviously published at the start of April 76. Wow, very impressive. The other thing I want to touch on quickly, listeners, talking about the bicentennial cover flash at the top, this issue of Batman Family does indeed have the full page advertisement, and it tells us that to get this Superman belt buckle, you had to send at least 25 different cover headings. And it highlights to cut out basically the cigar band that Peter always talks about to show the title of the comic, and the bicentennial bit along the top. So,
wow.
If you're interested, Richard Dragon Kung Fu Fighter issue 10 was number 24, and Plop number 22 was number 12. Tarzan Family number 64 was number... Have a guess which number you think Tarzan Family 64 was.
16.
No.
8.
No.
142.
No.
52.
23. There we go. We got it eventually. We could have been here all night, Ali Morrison. At least 25. Now, this now makes me think. Was there someone employed by DC to gather all these cover things and count which titles turned up more often than not? And did they then make a sales decision? Or say perhaps they didn't get very many of Blitzkrieg or Black Hawk. Did this contribute to the early cancellation of Black Hawk? I wonder if this was a cunning way they had of trying to work out which titles would have been more popular. Were readers buying multiple copies, indeed, as one of our correspondents said, so they could send off for this belt buckle? I want to know. Listeners, if you were around in the States in 76, give us your memories of the bicentennial flash and sending off the belt buckle if you did.
Did you send in Blitzkrieg? I find it really weird that Blitzkrieg has got a patriotic American banner at the top.
I know.
That's very odd. I wish it could touch on Blitzkrieg in the podcast, but none of it falls into a remit, but it's a fascinating series.
Yes. Listeners, for more of a mild sense of the bicentennial cover flashes, check out the cover photo on our Facebook page at the moment, which we'll be using for the whole of our coverage of stories published in 1976. Where are we on Facebook, Peter?
On Facebook, Instagram, and Blue Sky, we're at the Earth 2 Podcast, and on Twitter, we're at podcast_Earth2. If you want to, you can email us as well at theearth2podcast@gmail.com and let us know your thoughts on this story, or indeed any story. Just drop us a line, have a chat, start a conversation. That'd be great.
Yeah, any story you like. It doesn't have to be one that we've covered in the podcast. If it's something you overheard someone else talking about in the executive washroom and you want to share it, send it to us.
What's your favourite Agatha Christie story? I'll forward it on to David just to annoy him.
No, it's funny. Years ago, because it was mentioned in... Was it mentioned in Doctor Who? The Roger Ackroyd one?
Mm-hmm.
Steve and I both read it around about the same time.
Mm-hmm.
And I can't remember now how Steve felt about it, but I felt it put me on... I'd previously read a couple of the Miss Marple novels because I'd read some of the ones that I'd really enjoyed watching, the Joan Hickson versions on BBC Telly in the 80s.
Yeah.
I read a couple of those. A Murder is Announced and the one about the train from Paddington, whichever one that was. Mm-hmm. So I read The Death of Roger Ackroyd, and without spoiling it for anyone who hasn't read it, when I got to the end and things were explained, I was really annoyed.
I see. Did the butler do it?
Spoilers. To me, it felt like a cheat, quite frankly.
Okay.
Listeners, what's your thoughts on that? Without spoiling it for anyone who doesn't know, write in and let us know. That put me off really reading any more Agatha Christie ever.
Oh, well.
Much more of a fan of Josephine Tay. So there you go. Listeners, go and read Brat Farah and The Daughter of Time, The Franchise Affair, and Miss Pym Disposes. You'll never read anything as good in your life, that's a promise. So, as I always say at this point, if you're feeling generous and if you're enjoying the show, please consider going to wherever it is you receive your podcasts and leaving a positive review. I'm told such things are good for our visibility, etc., etc. And if you post a review, we'll read it out on the show. What other incentive can we give you? If you're feeling even more generous, you can make your way to our coffee page via our link tree, buy Peter the Price for beverage, and I'm sure he would appreciate that very much.
Well, certainly would.
Next week's episode is a story I've been looking forward to for years.
Hey.
Ever since we decided to do this, I've had this one on my sights, and I'm very, very excited. It's finally coming into view, and we're going to be able to do it. What will that story be? Well, there is only one way to find out. And what way is that, Peter?
You have to tune in next week. And in that bombshell, I've been Peter.
And I've been David. Take care, folks. We'll see you in 7 days on
the F2 podcast.
Transmatter cube activated. Return coordinates set for Earth Prime.
As he walks across what am I talking about?
Whose every move is a stereotypical femme. No, whose every move is stereotyp.